All right. So, Dead but Dreaming of Electric Sheep. My mother, who read the book recently, said, "There's no sheep in here." I'm like, "Yes, Mom, I'm aware." But anyway, so there's no sheep. The title's lying to you in that respect. Anyway, so the story centers around there's a man who who's at the start is unnamed. He's middle aged, my height and build, which is tall and thin. And he works for a giant tech corporation um, in the mailroom. And one day he has a massive stroke, and all of this kind of happens off the page, by the way, but is the setup. Has a massive stroke on campus, doesn't die, but he's in a coma in a vegetative state and declared not conscious. But he signed the rights to his brain and body over like you would to science, but he signed it directly over to the tech company, and they put AI and nanobots into his brain, so someone could remote control him with something that looks like an Xbox controller, except on a cell phone. The company's CFO hires her somewhat estranged 24-year-old daughter, who was a one-time ex-gamer, hires her to basically weekend at Bernie's this guy across the country. So I really hope that the Julia, that's the name of the young woman who's controlling the man, that her chapters, her sort of little road trip across the country and airports, I hope those are kind of fun and funny, but also like satirical and builds some dread. So you have her chapters, but that alternates with chapters from the man's point of view, who of course is conscious or has some sort of new consciousness that might have been enabled or kickstarted by the stuff implanted in his brain. And he's going through a phantasmagoric kind of hell as he's being transported across the country. And so then his story and Julia's story sort of converge at the end, and then everyone's happy and no one is sad at the end.
So, Paul, I was thinking the other day about talking to you, and so when I was thinking about talking to you, I was thinking about my history of knowing you, and I was trying to place the first time we talked, and I think it was for Swallowing a Donkey's Eye when that came out on Cheesine. I believe that was the first time we ended up doing an interview. I think that we were dancing around the Warmed and Bound anthology, but I don't think we actually ended up talking that time. I think it was actually Swallowing a Donkey's Eye. But all that is to say, like, it's been like 14 years that we've known each other and been talking about your books. So that's pretty I was just reflecting on like and you're one of the people that I give as example over the years of like someone who I've really loved to watch their career kind of evolve over time. And like, yeah, it's been really rewarding to see some of these people I've known for a long time. And you're among that group that always kind of comes up when I get sentimental about, my humble beginnings.
Well, thank you. It's funny. It came up recently, within the last few months, like the AWP that was in Boston. Like that, that's where we met the first time in person. What year was that? Do you remember?
That's 2013.
That was 2013. Man, yeah. So that's 13 years ago.
Yeah, I've got random pictures of us like standing together and stuff.
I didn't even attend the conference. I just went like to meet you and some other folks that were there and hosting something, or there was some event that was happening. But anyway,
yeah, we used to pull big crews together for AWP for a while, and then it just kind of tapered off. But yeah, that one was that was cool. Like that was, yeah. I think my approach to those was always like, I don't go to the actual conference. I just do the offsite readings and hang out in people's hotels and party and stuff like that. So it was just the whole social aspect of it. But yeah, like, man, that's forever ago. That's kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah, it is. These things we remember. Sponsored by.
Sponsored by us doing this.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that's just great. And like, I don't know. I just like, I like to get nostalgic and go back to, I was doing a thing. I did a virtual panel for StokerCon called The Horror Boom. And it was talking about like the recent kind of like explosion of horror literature, but also like obviously horror. 3 different horror films won Oscars this year. Like it's just kind of a crazy time for horror. And it was a great conversation. Then I went back and I looked at um, the Wikipedia for like Stoker Awards just to see like
Mm.
what like the changes over the years, because I was kind of looking for like what was the moment that like we changed from kind of like old guard to new guard. And I really, I apologize to do this to you, but my conclusion is it was you winning the Stoker in whatever it was, 2014, 15, whatever.
Uh, yeah, it was well, A Head Full of Ghosts came out in 2015, so like the next year, they give out the
Yeah,
awards. Yeah.
like if you look in the category, in the kind of larger categories, novel, first novel, novella, anthology,
Mhm.
there's like a serious shift from like your Dean Koontz and Stephen King and all of those kind of older guard people. Head Full of Ghosts wins. And like there was a little bit of like, it's not just like a moment, but like there's
Yeah,
a
yeah,
little
yeah.
bit of change. But like from that moment forward, I'm seeing like, you, Steven, Josh Malerman, I'm seeing all of these kind of like guys that haven't been putting out books since like the 80s are now like filling up these short lists. And so like in my mind now, I've attributed you winning the Stoker to like the kind of shift into a new generational like explosion of horror.
You're 100% right. No, I'm just kidding. No,
Yes.
thank you. I mean, I don't know how quite to respond to that. Although, when I do think about that time, it's, we were pitching A Head Full of Ghosts in 2014, my agent and I, and we knew we were going to have a hard time overcoming my prior sales record, both with like small independent publishers and with the two Henry Holt novels, The Little Sleep and No Sleep to Wonderland. Um, and initially, a whole bunch of editors were interested. Then they all backed out, and the things they were saying was like, "Oh, they mentioned the sales record, but they were also like, oh, this is horror. We can't sell horror," kind of thing. Excuse me, sorry. Um, yeah, so it's pretty wild. Like how many years later, um, the number of horror novels that are being published and bought is just kept continuing. I think it might have been last year there was a report like it was up 25% from the year, even from the year before, which had already increased. You know, I would, one like the old guard has to give up at some, not give up, but it's gonna run out at some point. So I mean, it's just a
Yes.
matter of time. But also, just as it has throughout history, I mean, I tend to credit what's going on. I was gonna say Hollywood, but it's more often than not like the independent studios that are doing stuff. So I mean, Jordan Peele, with Get Out, I think was a real moment
Yeah.
where for the first time in my memory, I could see the mainstream press discussing horror seriously, and taking it seriously. There were even articles like I remember, like maybe this is a false memory, but I don't think it is. But an article in some New Yorker or the Times or something like that was like, "Do we have to take horror seriously now?" As like, God damn it, like. So I kind of always think I tie those together in my head because obviously, I mean, we love books and reading, and I always will, and it's overtaken my love of movies, which is where I first started from. But the mainstream culture is still always going to be about movies first, if not something else. I mean, now it might be video games or et cetera. So I do think we owe for a lot of we could enumerate tons of reasons, but like Jordan Peele would be towards the top of my list there as to maybe why we started having, along with other films that came out sort of around the same time,
Mhm.
as to why I also just think, like you mentioned, the generational thing, just like these Gen Xers all became of an age where, we all grew up reading Stephen King and some of those people that you'd mentioned, but also like, Poppy Z. Bright and, and other writers. And, we got to an age where it was like, oh, like we're going to publish stuff now. And, like a little bit of that happened too.
Yeah, it almost feels like, so I grew up in the 80s being like really afraid of horror, but also knowing that there was so much like super popular horror. So like when I look back on it, I'm like, these are all the Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, Friday the 13th kids
Mhm.
finally taking over the steering wheel and seeing what they can do with it. But like, yeah, Jordan Peele definitely through horror like legitimized or like made horror sexy or however you want to say it in a way that I feel like people had been making small incremental progress, and he just
Yeah.
came out and was like, nope, this is it. This is a phenomenon, and this is like how effective it can be. Yeah, I think that is definitely like one of those points. I originally in my mind was pointing to Mongrels by Stephen Graham Jones as like a big switch, but yeah, looking back even further, like even Bird Box came out in 2014, and like that had like
Yeah.
viral
That came out,
TikTok.
yeah, the year before. A year before Head Full of Ghosts. I think
Yeah,
Mongrels came out after Head Full of Ghosts, right?
Mongrels I
Yeah,
think
I'm,
was
I'm almost 100% sure it came out after because he was with William Morrow only for that one book,
yeah,
and I was already there. Yeah, no, I mean, if that book came out now, it would be a sales monster. I mean, a critical monster for sure. But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. That was a big yeah. I'm just happy that like we've got to be here for it and like what's going on. We were talking a little like a while back, not a while back. Jesus, we've been talking for 10 minutes
yeah,
um, about three horror movies won Oscars this year. Two horror movies are just dominating the box office right now.
yeah,
And those are kind of breakout like from little things and stuff. But like fucking, people are gonna get tired of everybody mentioning the Pulitzer Prize, but
oh yeah, yeah,
like that is insane. And Whalefall, the trailer for Whalefall, which
yeah,
you could argue is it horror, is it not? But like that was just astonishing, and that's going to be a smash, I believe. So
yeah,
yeah, like the I think that we're going to talk about your book, by the way. But I just like I get
yeah.
to talk
No,
about
no,
this.
no.
Like, um, I think it was last year, at the beginning of last year, I was like, shit, there's too much. Like, I almost feel like there's so much
Oh
that
yeah.
you have to curate your intake. And so
Well, I
like,
was going to joke like which bubble's going to pop first, the horror or AI. Hopefully, it's AI. Um,
fingers
you know,
crossed. Yeah,
I
yeah,
say that in jest, but a lot of people like to talk about, oh, the '80s horror crash, the '80s horror crash. It's comparing apples to oranges. It was such a different time, such a different time in publishing. Publishing is unrecognizable now compared to what it was. It doesn't mean that there couldn't be something, and I definitely do think there could be, a fall off. People get tired of things. And it's usually the case of where like cynical editors and cynical filmmakers who don't really care about horror just try to jump on the bandwagon and put out dross.
yes,
So I mean that's definitely, I don't know if it's a fear. I mean, I just think it's a reality of when things get popular. Like I never the I wasn't like I'm not a comic book nerd compared to some comic book nerds, but I never thought like if you would ask me in 2010 if I would ever get sick of comic book movies, I'm like, no, these are great, but I haven't seen one in like 5 years just because I'm so done with
yeah.
them. Um,
But that
Now, I mean,
that
that's a little like one note, like compared to horror. Obviously, it's again, but there is that part of it.
and I mean, Marvel had dominance for a good 2 decades before it started to feel like it was falling off. So like that gives me hope too. Like
Yeah,
like if we're talking about we got a good I think 5 years before we're like, hey, things are changing. In my mind, that's where I'm at. So
right.
now
Well,
I
I
jinx
think one way, one way that I am hopeful that this is not like a uh, short-lived sort of renaissance is that like, and I hope and encourage horror readers and writers to continue just to push the envelope.
yeah,
And also, it seems like in a lot of ways, I mean, listen, the horror community is far, far, far from perfect. No community is. There are bad actors, um, and still things that have to be improved in regard to, you name it, women being read, own voices, etc. And I don't say that in a dismissive way at all, but I do think compared to some other literary communities that horror is pretty, it's pretty out front in terms of trying to lead the way with some with some of those things, and hopefully it should be leading the way with saying no to AI. I really wish the Horror Writers Association would come out and say that they wouldn't, that AI stuff would not be considered for the Stoker Award, etc. I honestly don't know what is taking so long
Yeah.
for that. I find it really frustrating.
No, yes, yeah, yep. I'm with you there. It's strange that it's hard to take such a definitive stance on something that seemed so obvious, you know? Um, yeah. So
Yeah.
understand your frustration totally with that. On the positive thing about horror, I would say that one of the things I think could, and I hope is the help for the longevity of horror is I feel like now there's more of a push of like horror is everywhere, horror is everything in a way that I at least haven't been aware of before. But like, so my girlfriend traditionally has not read horror,
Hmm.
and because of me, um, just reads all of this horror, and she's like, "Yeah, but this is just good books." She's like, "I've never been a horror person, but like,"
Right.
she also said to me, "Every day in a woman's life is horror." So I think that if people don't feel like horror is monsters and gore, and it's like horror is a nuanced approach to situations of life,
Hmm.
and there's horror and monster or gore and monsters, um, those people that typically would just kind of assume they don't like it might have a more of an entry into it. Um, and then like, and one of the things I'm really excited about is female rage right now. Like, not even empowerment. That sounds like kind of like, you know what I'm saying? That
Yeah.
it sounds like something bad about saying female empowerment, but just female rage, like, um, I think is exciting.
Absolutely.
Like the um, big strides that people like, indigenous authors and people of color and stuff are making that bring in people who maybe didn't see themselves there before. Definitely a lot of stuff with
Right.
trans authors and stuff like that. Oh my god, like the trans horror is growing so much, and there's so many voices that, like, I have to imagine like those types of things pull people in and say, now I have someone that's like
Yeah.
making a story that I see myself in.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Yeah. To like go back from the start to what you're talking about earlier. I still think I don't know. And for me, it's very much anecdotal, but like in the school that I worked in for years and years, like no one there. I mean, they were very supportive of me. I'm not complaining, but very few people there, were reading what I was writing or terribly interested in it because like, oh, I can't do horror.
Yeah.
Um, and for years I was like, well, part of the deal is horror relies on a transgression. And when it goes poorly, however you want to define poorly, is if like this means this doesn't work as a story, doesn't work as art, like it's really memorably poorly, um, in a way that really affects whoever's like reading or watching the movie, right? And for, I think for so long, for most people, particularly in the first half of this century, I think they're when you said horror to them, they just imagine like maybe not even the classic sort of horror 80s horror movies, but like bad ones that they saw happen to see when they were
Yeah.
a teenager or a kid or something. Yeah, so like I don't know, I feel like I have no way to prove this, but like my initial sort of assumption or conclusion is that no, I feel like horror more than any other sort of genre or mode of writing gets associated with its least successful ones in the wider culture.
Yeah.
And frankly, I kind of like that. Like I always hope. I mean, I want horror to be popular. I want people to be successful. Believe me. But at the same time, I hope it doesn't get sanitized. I don't want it to feel safe.
Yeah.
It should always be a critic of the mainstream culture. It should be prodding at the boundaries. It should be stepping over boundaries. I mean that we were talking about the fear of like a bubble popping. That's more my fear is just sort of making it safe. And happily, I mean, you mentioned a whole bunch of different writers. It's definitely not safe.
Yeah. Yeah. I fully agree with you on that. And like, yeah, things come to mind where I've read some like just stomach turning stuff or like things, and I'm like, I can't believe this is in a book I'm reading. So like, yeah, very happy that those
Yeah.
things are still happening. Like people are like not like, yeah, like the people who are not writing to this will get published, but they're writing to this needs to be told. Like they need to exist and they need to, yeah,
Right.
be fostered.
And it's not even like in an edgelord like kind of way. It's more in a way that again just is going to make you feel emotionally uncomfortable. It's going to make you feel. It's going to make you sort of
Yeah.
confront things that you assumed were one way or not the other. And that's what excites me about horror is that part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't want just like a amusement park funhouse. We want,
I mean, you can
yeah.
have it, but I don't want all of it to be that. You know what I mean? Like, listen, Evil Dead 2 is one of my favorite movies. I mean, I still think that's a pretty transgressive movie in a lot of ways, but I do like fun, etc. But like, it can't all be that. And
Yeah.
that's, just again, from my anecdotal experience, which I wrote a little bit about in horror movie, like, I get contacted or my representatives, I'm sure so many other writers do too, get contacted from, people who don't just want to hop on. They don't really get horror and say things like, well, we want horror, but it can't be too disturbing. Then it has to have a happy ending. I'm like, well, I don't
And
think
you
you
don't
want
want
horror.
horror.
You certainly don't want my horror anyway.
Right. Yeah. I'm sure you can find someone somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I part of me too just wants to live in the moment and experience as much of it as I can right now and just like be present for
Absolutely.
the joyous abundance that we're experiencing right now.
And get more
Um,
tattoos.
and get more tattoos. Well,
Yeah,
you
I'm
got,
slowing down. I'm running out of space. I'm only going to do my arms.
the last time I talked to you, the new one was, I think, a Godzilla tattoo
Oh, okay. Yeah. It's been,
around horror movie. How many have you gotten since then?
geez, a bunch. I think I'm up to 13 now.
Wow.
Yeah.
I have 4, and the last one that I got was 15 years ago, I think. I've just really been dragging. I've been dragging
Yeah.
it.
Well, I
So,
just mentioned because when you lifted your arm, so I imagined you talked about like making your girlfriend into horror. I just imagine you popping out of rooms, like flailing your arms like you were a second ago when I saw the tattoos.
well, she's also really tough. So if I wanted to scare her, I would like
Yeah.
not follow through on something I said I was going to do or something. So. Um, but all right, so Dead But Dreaming of Electric Sheep is the book that we are um, talking about today. And
Indeed.
I have said some very like extremely positive things about this book. And so I've read, I think I've read, I can't say I've read 100% of your books, but damn close. And
That's it. This interview's over. I'm just kidding.
I know, right? Hey, fuck you, Rob.
Yeah.
You didn't read the Beast You Are. I think that's the one I didn't read. But in my defense, it was probably around the time I was recovering from cancer. So I'm just
that's a good excuse. Yeah.
shelter myself. I've read, nearly every book of yours, and it's not a flex. That's just to lead into the thing I want to say. For some reason, like they all have a different kind of place in my heart, and I've told you every time you've made me cry. So we have a long history of that.
Mm.
There's something that's so special to me about Pallbearers Club. Like that one just always sticks with me. It just felt like I was feeling a lot of Paul in that book in a way that maybe not as much with others. And yeah, this one I felt the same way. So like you write books and you tell this person's story or this person's story. And I feel like those books are at least kind of telling a little bit of your story or like representing what could be your story in a way. Pallbearers Club felt very personal. This one felt more contemporary in its like how it's personal to you. And obviously I'm being very vague about the fact that it is not positive about AI.
No, it is not.
And I've said on social media, I think I said to you in like an email or something, how I felt like it was just like a big old middle finger to AI in a way that like people need to be more. It's like, why are we being polite about this?
Yeah.
And I feel like you are not being polite about it. But I promise I'm going to let you talk. The thing I want to acknowledge is not only does that come through strong and feel just punk and awesome, but you tell a story about people and their lives and their ups and their downs and their, their tragedies and grief. And there's so much story in there, plus a big old neon middle finger to AI. Like, there's a lot you packed into it. So like,
Thank you.
I wouldn't want someone to hear this and just be like, oh, it's anti AI. I don't care about that.
Yeah.
It's a real story with real people and feelings and emotions and arcs and everything. So like, yeah, like my praise right off the bat is like, it feels personal, but you didn't like shortchange the story because you had like an axe to grind.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. No, it means a lot. Yeah, and plus there's Weekend at Bernie's references. I mean, come on, who can resist? Yeah, I mean, the book certainly reflects my anxieties of 2 years of being a part of a class action lawsuit suing OpenAI, along with Christopher Golden, Sarah Silverman, and Richard Cadre. Yeah, so those 2 years were really, it wasn't like an everyday thing at times. So like there'd be a lot of nothing, and then there would be like intense. We have to meet with a federal judge, fly, come to New York or go to California. Then there'd be nothing, and it's like, oh, and then we have to take your whole laptop and phone for discovery evidence, and
oh wow,
and towards the end of writing the book, I went through a deposition, which I only recommend on my worst enemies. It was just such a stressful, awful, not so fun experience. Yeah, so a lot of that went into the book, and this book more than others. So, I mean, not that that's all that interesting, but it ends up at 114,000 words. I think when I finished it, it was almost like 140, and like I wrote. I've never written as much in a month and a half as I have for this book. For like April to like the first week of June when it was due. I was like late by a week for the first time ever, but I think I wrote like 45,000 words. I've never written,
oh my God,
anything like that in that short amount of time. Whereas, I mean, it took me, well, I guess I got a later start than usual on this, but I felt like I was crawling along for the most part. And then that finish line, it was, it was motivated partly by, I know what's happening now, but also a little bit of panic. It's like, I got to finish this thing. But, just sort of had the momentum, which I think if the reader puts up with the first few hundred pages, the last 100 plus, everything sort of ties together in hopefully unexpected ways.
I would say unexpected ways yes, unexpected ways for sure.
He's trying not to spoil things.
I know that's that's with this. It's especially so, but in my mind, I'm like, okay, of course, the idea of like a story that is built around the idea of like AI bad feels like it came first. The real touching part is it's the characters referred to as Bernie in the cover copy.
Yeah,
is as we slowly discover what happened in that character's life and see their kind of feelings and everything. That felt so, I don't know, like it was like so effective. And so in my mind, I'm like, how do you take, and of course I could be wrong. Like in my mind, it's like Paul had this building of fuck AI, or I want to create a story of like how I can depict this as bad, but like put such like a tender, like heartstring puller inside of it. So, yeah, I don't even know where my question is, but like,
well, thanks. I mean,
Bernie felt so like, so touching and like tender in the midst of everything else.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate that very much. I mean, if, as a reader of novels, listen, obviously there's no one way to do it. I'm certainly not saying that. But my favorites always tend to be about the mystery of the self. No matter what else is going on, it could be a plotless book, it could be a plot heavy book, there could be a lot of things happening, there could be not a lot of things happening, but it always boils down to me is the mystery of the person that you're either following through the book or multiple characters, right? So yeah, at a certain point, it becomes the mystery of who Bernie is and where he came from, and and some of that he's actively trying to figure that out himself. And the same with Julia, like where she's interrogating the whole time, like why am I doing this? Like what would have you know uh,
Yeah.
how did she get here? Where's she going? Especially where's she going? Like as a 24-year-old thinking about her future. So yeah, I wanted to play off those two characters and hopefully have them meet more. Obviously Julia is escorting or moving Bernie across the country, but have them sort of have their sort of stories collide, in the last 50 pages or so in a hopefully interesting way. In terms of like the start of it, like it was just a fun, goofy what if. Like I was reading Mary Roach's novel, her nonfiction Stiff. If you've ever read Mary Roach, she's a fun science writer. Um, yeah, I guess people use the term pop science, which I don't know, that probably annoys her, so I'm not going to say it. But she's very smart, very funny, and she just really does deep dives into like some fun, quirky topics. And one of them was like, oh, dead bodies, what happens? Where do they go? Like, well, how do we, in different areas, different cultures, what do they do with them? And I forget at what part in the book I was listening. I was listening to the audio, um, and I think she was discussing the transportation of bodies either by military or elsewhere and stuff like that. It was like I said, the weird image, like, oh, what if you got to the point where they just sat and coach with you or something, but someone's like controlling them somehow. I was like, that's a really goofy idea, but I didn't dismiss it. And then at some point, doing the as a part of the lawsuit case, I was like, oh yeah, these assholes would totally put something in someone's brain without any thought. If they thought they could make money from it, they would totally do it. To me, that's the least uh, the least unrealistic thing about my book is that some tech company would do this in the way that it's being done in my book. Um, yeah, so it wasn't necessarily like, oh, like I'm going to write the anti-AI novel. It did sort of grow somewhat organically from a couple of those things. And I do want to recommend one book that I read twice before even really writing. Like I might have just thought about the book for a while. It's a book called The Feeling of Life Itself by Christopher Koch, Koch.
Mm-hmm.
I apologize, Christopher, if I'm saying this incorrectly, but I think he's both like a philosophy guy and some sort of scientist at MIT or professor. So it's put out by MIT Press. Um, and it's a big book that's basically exploring like, hey, what is consciousness? How do we define it?
Mm-hmm.
How do you define it?
Yeah.
He argues pretty convincingly that he ties consciousness to being able to directly experience the world.
Mm.
And he even does like a mathematical proof that shows no computer or AI would ever actually be able to be conscious based on that definition. I mean, it's small consolation doesn't mean that they still can't just like kill people and do terrible things. They're just not conscious because they can't experience the environment directly. But anyway, sorry, that was a rambling answer, but yeah.
That sounds fascinating. I'll make sure that I pop the little book cover up on the screen for the video.
I mentioned a math proof. Even though I have a 30-year-old master's, I could not claim that I followed the proof at all. I'm just going to assume that MIT Press vetted that sucker, and it wasn't putting out just like a false thing.
One would hope. You brought up something that I think this book prods at in an interesting way, and that's the morality of interacting with technology, because it feels like it's kind of writ large, as part of the story. But the feeling I got is the feeling I get in the real world, and that is either people don't think about the morality of what they're doing often, or it creeps up. Like it's not just an
Mhm.
immediately black and white, like good, bad.
Right.
Like people need to come around to the idea that like the bad's really outweighing the good. And I need to be able to acknowledge that. And so like, I feel like the way you depicted the moral quandary felt realistic in the fact that like it felt worse as time went on, at least to me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know if that was intentional or that was just kind of a realistic depiction, but like I felt like that was really powerful. The fact that like in the beginning we're feeling kind of lighthearted and just kind of what if, and then later on we're like, what am I doing?
Right.
So
Yeah. Thank you. No. Yeah. I mean, I wanted to try to make, even though there's a lot of humor, I hope, to the book, especially Julia's chapters. I wanted to
yeah,
try to ground it in reality as much as I could. But I think you described it well with both ways. I mean, we are conditioned now as people of the 21st century to be like, oh wow, like look at this thing, and then like you do have to like dig into it. I mean, I would even say myself as an example when I certainly wasn't paying attention when ChatGPT was invented. I'm sure people were writing articles about it, and when Midjourney, the art
right,
producing one, came out, I think it was like early 23, and there were people all over Instagram like, oh, look at, I made you like alternate cover for your book, and like I reposted, it's like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then and then an artist who followed me like messaged me, it's like, hey, I'd appreciate you don't share this because of this, this, and this. I was like, oh shit, I had no idea. I had no
yep,
idea that your works were being stolen or how Midjourney was scraping art from everywhere. So as soon as I learned about how the sausage was made, so to speak, I was like, fuck that. Like, no.
yeah,
And then I was like a few months later, I had the opportunity to join the lawsuit. So yeah, but there, I mean, there's a lot of people who might hear that and they'll just be like, or like, oh, it's too inconvenient. Listen, everybody does that on some level, right? Like, otherwise, would any of us be driving cars if we really thought about how much, we're polluting or things like that? I mean,
yeah,
I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole, but like, it's okay to like make, to make a stand somewhere, especially when it clearly seems to me totally black and white that these things steal our books. They don't ask our permission. Obviously, using the word steal, they don't pay us. It's there's no um, there's no sort of moral or ethical way to use AI currently. There just is not. Like I just
right.
don't see how it's so difficult to to parse that.
Yeah, I mean it's wholesale theft, and like, so and my mind always goes back to like when the I think it was the RIAA was like suing anybody who would like download a song from Napster and stuff like
Right.
that. Like, people were getting these massive lawsuits for like downloading a copy of a song, and it almost feels like when it's the individual, no good, but when there's the promise of a new era of this and this and this, and it's a big company with a lot of money and backing, or like theoretical money,
Mhm.
because I don't think they have
Yeah.
money anyway.
No. No.
Then it's like suddenly it's like we have to talk about both sides,
Yeah.
or or we have to make sacrifices to advance things.
Right. Remember when Metallica got everyone gave Metallica grief because they were so pissed off about Napster they started suing individual people. And everyone's
Yeah,
like, "Oh, bad Metallica." But man, there's a part of me like, and I was too. But now I'm like, "Huh." I kind of want to sue that jackass who craps out hundreds of romance novels that the New York Times did a story on. It's like, how don't we just
mhm.
sue her or
Yes,
sue
go after her.
people putting all that stuff. So I
Yeah.
don't, yeah. But anyway,
It's just such a weird. It's weird how people can't see what the clear good guy is in this situation, and then we haven't even talked about the environmental impact of everything, and like
right.
how data centers are devastating, natural resources and natural land and ecosystems and stuff, and like it has never been clearer that like, and even if you take away all of that, that juice isn't even worth the squeeze. I've never seen anything
Yeah.
better because of
Yeah.
something that AI created. And so like, and it's because it's like, I
Yeah.
go off on a
Yeah.
whole rant, but anyway, like me and you, we're on the same page with
Right.
this.
Right.
And it's so befuddling that people aren't just more. So like I got an email from a publicist last week, and I'm like, this reads like AI. Like this
Yeah.
email reads like AI, and I replied and I said, what is your approach? What is your stance with using AI? I'm not going to work with anybody who uses AI in the creation of their books or in the promotion of books. And they replied back and they're like, oh, haha. No, I write my own emails. And I'm like, that reads like AI. So I didn't answer, but like, it was like, come on, man. Like, so I don't know why
I
people,
know
yeah.
that's the other
So,
insidious side of it is everyone's getting paranoid. I mean, it's all a part of the larger, the pact between writers and the social compact between writers and the rest of the world is broken, irreparably broken. And for once, it's not all of writers' fault. I mean, there's so many different things we could go off on a tangent on that. Um, but yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm in a like a weird, ironic hell as someone who like taught math forever, was into like numbers and
yeah.
and technology, and now it's like I feel like I'm not screaming into a void because clearly there's so many people that agree. But like, what it's like, can't you just see? It's like these corporations just trying to wring you like a sponge, wring you out like a sponge, and they're giving you things, and I'm including analytics both in how it's used in sports and in business, um, to try to sell you something that they say is the panacea, where the truth is it's more like a it's more like a fraud. It's more like a
It's a copy of a copy of a copy. It's just
yeah.
garbage.
But I mean, it all of it, like the use of analytics, the use of AI, uh, it appeals to our worst natures. We're all lazy. We all want things to be easy, and worst of all, especially in the case of analytics, we all want to be able to say it's not my fault. This is what the spreadsheet said. Like you abdicate responsibility. All of those things are the worst. They're some of the worst parts of human nature, and all of those just feed directly into that.
Yeah. But, and so now I want people to read this book more.
The book
Not
is
because,
fun, I promise. Isn't just me lecturing at you.
well, I was going to get to the Big Lebowski in a moment, but
Yeah.
because like, because of what I said about like, um, even the people we're rooting for are like, oh wait, what am I enabling?
Mhm.
I guess in a way, um, and they have to make a decision, and it
And
made me
those lines are always interesting to me. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
well, hopefully, and like with me, I was like, where do I, am I standing strong enough? Am I being loud enough? Like it made me think of like, what is my approach to like, technology that is having a negative impact. And like, I worked at Apple for 10 years. Like, like where have I been on all of this stuff? And so, it goes back to what you said about like transgression and like art that pushes pushes boundaries and asks questions. Like
Right.
it is a necessary. It's almost like the the standard we bear, in a way.
Yeah.
I say we.
Listen, right. No, but also like, listen, everyone, everyone gets exhausted by, the bad news all the time. And we only have so much, we only have so much energy to be able to fight certain fights. So like, I certainly wouldn't expect everyone to fight all the fights all the time. I certainly don't. I feel like in this particular case, I have a little bit more in the game, so to speak. Maybe a little bit of I don't want to call it necessarily expertise, but certainly experience with what's happening to be able to put it in a book. And hopefully it changes some hearts and minds.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, then I'll just still wave my creepily long middle finger around.
I'm going to put a challenge to anybody who's listening to this though. Like, I want you to think about: does it take more energy for me to say what I'm feeling, or to not say it because it makes it a less awkward situation? Like, I feel like I spend more energy making things okay in situations where like I disagree, but like, do I want this fight? I feel like there's more energy expended in like pushing myself down than just like speaking my mind. So like,
Yeah.
food for thought, Um,
One to
and
grow
with
up.
and with that in mind, I would like to
Yeah.
talk about the Big Lebowski. So
Yeah.
there's a couple of quirks in the book that are the lighter side and like the fun stuff, and one of them is the fact that I'm looking at my notes because I've been so Julia.
Yeah.
I read this book several books ago, so it's not fresh of mind.
No, yeah.
Um, Julia is ostensibly our protagonist or kind of
Mhm.
co-protagonist, female lead, however you want to call it. And one of the things about her as a character is that her favorite movie is The Big Lebowski, and it is quoted from generously throughout the book. So, was it always The Big Lebowski, or did you like bounce
Yeah.
around?
No, it was the
Always?
Big Lebowski, right? Yeah, from the start. I'm not
Is it?
100. Yeah, it just sort of happened. Like I didn't outline this book at all. I just sort of jumped in. I knew it was going to be the alternating chapters and all that stuff. So a lot of things that I put in early, I had to justify later, or you end up taking them out, right? Um,
Right.
but hopefully, I think it does fit. I mean, uh, it starts in Los Angeles, and I have to admit, at the time, you know, I have a couple of Gen Zers, in my house, or actually they're out of my house now mostly. But I was just fascinated by not only that, my son and daughter are interested in like older movies, movies that we saw, and also music,
Older
etc. But
movies.
like, it was just really fun. Like, I forget what year it was, but I think it might have been just even like 2 or 3 years ago, like where some of the music streamers would put out statistics about what decade of music was being listened to the most. And it wasn't 2020s. It was like 90s, I think was one, and 80s was not too far
Yeah.
behind. It was just, I don't know, it was just really interesting. Um, Compared to like when I was growing up in the 80s and 90s, obviously there was no internet. It was harder to get um, older culture. I mean, although that was on TV, but like, MTV for a lot of us, me included, was at least in the 80s, like how I learned about new music. Yeah, I've got my Living Color shirt on right now.
Yeah, very cool.
Junior year in high school, I wore that tape out. But now, like these Gen Zers have such quick and easy access to anything and everything. And what is it? Do they gravitate? So I had this 24-year-old Julia, partly because of her strained relationship with her parents, but also her relationship with someone who almost becomes like her found father, her chosen father, Uncle Fun, and just in how the things that they watch and listen to become wrapped up in that, both for good and bad. I think Julia definitely expresses her own frustration at like why does she compare everything to this movie or to pop culture in general. It's like is that all that's left in her brain, like plastic in the ocean kind of stuff.
Ah,
But yeah, anyway, so I thought that fit sort of the overall theme of the book. Of what is the mind. You get her mind, which is clearly she knows who she is, she knows what she wants to be, but how do you get there is difficult. Whereas the you or Bernie is literally trying to figure out who he was and is while being invaded, so to speak.
I don't want to read too deeply into it, but like the Jeffrey Lebowski character is definitely like um, almost like an unprepared hero
Mm,
in a way. So like there could be just like like it seems like she's at a point in her life where if a baby showed up at her door, she
yeah,
wouldn't be the fully responsible adult who could just get that taken care of. Like so there's like a um, yeah, like not a reluctant hero, but like maybe not fully prepared hero,
sure,
but the hero we have, and so
yeah.
um, that
You
kind
know,
of
he's
pops in my
he,
mind.
he's like a weird Peter Pan, right? He never grew up. Like he's this middle aged guy, who's funny, just doing like just things that he likes that are fun. I mean, and that's appealing to everybody, I
Yeah,
think. Um, and I think especially when you're young and afraid of like what kind of future do I have. I mean, I think there's obviously some appeal to that kind of character. I mean, that's his appeal to me. For someone who still probably wears way too many t-shirts and now getting tattoos, etc. There's
and
a Peter Pan wish in all of us. Uh, but I think it more grew out from I knew I needed to cut like some of the book with right off the bat. I wanted some humor in there. Like I wanted to write hopefully something that was funny. Um, and so I wanted a bunch of the book to feel like a Coen Brothers movie. That was like part
Yeah.
of my, like when my editor asked what you're writing, I was like, oh, I'm writing this thing. It's like a mix of Coen Brothers, Philip K. Dick. And I actually, because I feel like this writer is sort of adjacent to the Coen Brothers in some ways, but Patrick DeWitt, I don't know if you've ever read Patrick DeWitt's stuff.
I heard the name. I have not. No.
He's one of my favorite writers. And I've never done this with another book. And I don't know if I'll do it again, or at least I won't do it for a while, but only because I try to make each book feel different in a certain way. So with this book, which was hard to write, a way to trick me to get to the laptop was to be, at some point, I was like, you know what? Because I like his humor, I'm going to reread Patrick DeWitt's The Librarianist, but I'm only going to read 3 pages at a time per day. And I'm going to read those 3 pages before I sit down and start writing.
Oh, cool.
And man, that was so much fun because like I'd be excited. Oh, I get to read 3 pages before I start writing. And after reading 3 pages, I would just feel so inspired and jazzed up and happy. And, I feel like that sort of helped, and I did it. Like I finished The Librarianist and then I went to The Sister Brothers. So yeah,
That's
for
why I know
most of the
that.
book, I was rereading, I reread those 2 books, like a very small piece at a time.
That sounds like an awesome approach. Like, yeah, how to get like little like zaps of inspiration even.
Yeah.
Um, I know that this is, especially after you just explained this, but like as you were talking, my mind went to. So my professional, like my day job is I'm a trainer. I train and like new hire training and
Mhm.
whatever. I train people in my company, and like one of the things I do as a trainer, knowing that I'm training adults, is trying to connect new knowledge to existing knowledge. Like because as adults, we learn better if we can like analogize it to something that we already know. And so in my mind now, like I quote, I can see something from the TV show Arrested Development in almost everything that happens in life. And so
Yeah. Yeah.
like it's a strong part of my life that like a situation would happen and I would have a Arrested Development quote that connected to it. But I think our
Sure.
mind naturally tries to do that. Like, here's the situation, here's the thing that's familiar to me, and
Yeah.
now context exists. And so like I don't think you were trying to do that, but in my mind, like that is a very natural thing that people do.
Oh,
Is
absolutely.
like
Yeah.
I want to filter this through the thing that is familiar to me, that feels safe for me. And so you weren't looking for an explanation for that behavior, but like that's a strong feeling I have about
No.
like the
Yeah.
way
It makes
you
sense. I'm
right.
thinking I'm glad I didn't do just all Simpsons quotes because that's my context. That's my contextual go-to, which I couldn't use I couldn't use teaching wise for, the last half at least of my career because those kids stopped watching The Simpsons a long time ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
So did
I
I.
don't have a,
Like I'm quoting Simpsons from seasons like 2 through 9. That's when that's it. That's the golden age.
I can proudly say that both The Simpsons and South Park, I watched the first episode on the actual first day they aired.
Wow.
Like sat
Yeah.
down for The Simpsons on that first episode. And then for South Park, it was built up so much that like we had like a watch party of like people my age. We all went into
Yeah.
someone's house and we're like, oh, it's finally out. So yeah, like but like I dropped off Simpsons after like season 12 or something like that. So
Yeah. Yeah.
um yeah. Yeah, we have those like cultural kind of like touchstones that we have. And yeah, I got really nerdy about that. But
No, no, no. It's good. It's a good
it's
point. It's true.
the point is it's relatable. And
And I haven't seen Arrested Development though. Sorry.
oh my god.
I know. Sorry.
So there's certain. I was thinking about this recently. I was thinking because in the times I've like chatted with Josh Malerman, we have a connection with the band The Doors. Like I was a huge,
Hmm.
ridiculous Doors fan when I was like a teenager, and then I kind of was like, "Ugh, I don't know about. Like I kind of got embarrassed for being a Doors fan, but I've been
Yeah.
listening to them recently and being like, I don't know why I'm so embarrassed. I still enjoy this music. Um, Stephen Graham Jones. We have a mutual love for the TV show Justified.
Hmm.
And so now I'm like, what's my Paul connection? What's my mutual with mutual with Paul, so we'll figure it out at some point.
Hmm.
But
Well, maybe it's the Big Lebowski now. I don't know.
I watched The Big Lebowski many times. It's one of those where like there was a time in my life where I could watch it multiple times in the same day and not lose any of its like impact.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. For a
it
while,
is
it
a
was if I'm on the plane, I don't want to think about watching something new on a tiny screen. That's usually what I pop on. And
yeah.
I want to say I purposely tested it with my daughter, Emma, but, she watched it and loved it. So I'm like, all right, this is realistic for a 24-year-old potentially.
Mhm. It's brilliantly done too. Like the more you watch it, the more you realize like,
Yeah.
and I mean, there are some things that are like kind of on the nose, like when the scene before Donnie dies is the only time he doesn't bowl a strike. So there's some things that are real
Oh,
obvious
I didn't notice that. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
to
Right,
me.
right, right. Yeah.
um, but like, yeah, I think that they were really on for that film. Like, I think I think they made a lot of great films, but there
Yeah.
was something about that one just, and maybe part of it was the levity, the unseriousness. I think does make it so much more palatable
Yeah.
in a way. Yeah. Um, Weekend at Bernie's.
Now that, like, I haven't seen since probably when it was on HBO in like 89, 90,
Yeah.
91. Like that's definitely not something that I revisit. But it's an obvious cultural reference. Like I think even
Yeah.
people who haven't seen it like know what you're talking about if you say Weekend at Bernie's.
Yeah.
Even just like from like the movie poster images or any other images, or I mean, there are GIFs. Like you can type in Weekend at Bernie, and there's a GIF of Bernie being controlled, etc.
Yeah. Yep. Um, yeah. And it's like the immediate, like if you were just like explaining the story to me, I think that that's the pop culture reference that would immediately jump to most people's minds is like, yeah. So like Weekend at Bernie's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually I tell people, like, when they ask me to describe the book, I say something about, like, the person with the implants in his brain, like, and they hired the 24-year-old CFO's daughter to weekend at Bernie's him across the country. And that
Yeah.
almost always elicits, if not a laugh, at least a smile.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so we had to get that on. We had to get that on the record. Weekend at Bernie's is a
Yes.
legitimate reference. The storm is really like
Oh, is it? Yeah.
intensifying outside. Like the wind is going nuts right now. There were like apparently storms so bad in Chicago. I'm like 40 miles outside of Chicago, where like big old trees are down in the street.
Oh,
It was
man.
like chaos yesterday. So we're just getting nailed with storms.
Jeez.
Something that so like there's something that is common in things that you write, and I don't think it's 100% of the time, but often, like
Mhm.
even with A Head Full of Ghosts, like the blog format with the different fonts and everything, like
Right.
um, your approach to formatting is not what people would consider conventional. Like
Right.
there's sometimes there are elements that are different than what you would expect to see in other books. And that's a consistent thing for you, but also like it's always necessary. I want to say that to if there's someone who's listening who's not
Yeah.
familiar with your work, you never just do it to do a flashy weird thing. Like when you do if you break convention in the way that you lay out a book, there's a reason for it. It's important to the story.
Uh-oh. Oh, no.
So we just had for the first time, I think since like before the pandemic, I've had a power outage in the middle of recording a podcast. The last time that happened, oh, who was it? We didn't have it with you. You didn't have a power
I
outage
wasn't
when we
there.
were recording.
I don't think
No,
so.
that would be weird if it was you again. I think it's
Yeah.
there's an author named Seth Harwood I was talking to one time, and he had this power go out. But anyway, so we had to pick up recording once my internet came back. So, but the question I was talking about your unconventional formatting and how there's always a reason for it. It contributes to the plot and everything. And so that's the case in Dead But Dreaming of Electric Sheep as well. And this, I don't even know how to approach this, but I want to say that like I'm going to be vague and then you can be
Yeah.
less vague.
Sure.
what I appreciate about this is like when I read Paul Tremblay, I know that probably there's going to be some unconventional stuff. In this, like it felt like there was layers of it. Like there was like unconventional because it supported the story of one of the characters, but then there was also unconventional a way that was like a little bit mischievous. So if you want to leave it at mischievous, that's cool. But like if you want to talk deeper about that, that's cool too.
Yeah, I mean, I can't lie and say that like I'm not. I say actively looking for might be the wrong word, but I get excited by a possibility to do something uh, extra textual. Is that a word?
Yeah, I like it.
um, I don't know. I it just I'm drawn to it. Like I like the idea of using visuals on the page. You know, not necessarily art per se, like drawings, but as a way to convey something about the story, um, even if it's just like tickling your subconscious in some way. So, something like the Pallbearers Club, it became obvious, like, oh, it's a found document. The person who
Mm-hmm.
found it is going to be writing in the margins. Like, it was a pretty simple through line for me, logically there. In this case, with, there were chapters alternating from, the man with the stuff implanted in his brain, his perspective, and Julia's perspective. And Julia's is written as, straightforward.
Yep.
But when you're in, we'll call him Bernie for now, when we're in his head, I wanted to try at times to replicate just how unmoored how unmoored he was, how unmooring it felt, especially when there were times where he wasn't even aware. Like he was, did he have a body? Where was it?
Yeah.
And so there's, I use text boxes sort of floating to sort of show that like what's going on in his brain. And then later in the story, it became important to have some subtle differences in how things were presented as visual cues as to maybe which characters were talking or not talking or thinking or not thinking. Yeah, my editor is not as excited by things like this as you are. I've made promises many times that I've broken, but man, the text boxes are a pain in the ass to replicate, especially in ebooks.
I was gonna say ebook formats for sure.
But yeah,
So
fingers crossed. I think they have a way. They've done it, and like the Brits came to our rescue again. The next book, I'm never going to use text boxes again. I'm going to do stuff, but
yeah.
actually, the next book, my daughter has drawn 16 illustrations, and there'll be 2 more for them. But anyway,
Wow, that's
I shouldn't
awesome.
be talking about the next book. I'm talking about this one.
Well, that makes me think about why I love horror as well. That your daughter did
Mm,
artwork for,
yeah.
which just won a Stoker. So like, oh my god. But so I talked to Mark Danielewski one time, and I said his name without the Z, like I know him, like we're buddies. Like that was disingenuous. But anyway, I talked to him one time, and one of the questions I had was it was when he was doing that the Familiar series,
Hmm.
and he said he does the layout as he goes, as he writes,
Yeah.
which blew my mind. But then in retrospect, I'm like, how could you not do it that way? So like, is that layout part of your plan, step by step?
Yeah. I mean, I do it as it happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
As I sort of imagine it, what it's going to look like. I couldn't do it any other way. Yeah. If anything, I ended up trimming back um, some of the bells and whistles because when I was going through, I was like, that doesn't have to be that way. I mean, that's just doing it for the sake of doing it. So I can I can promise the reader like the things that stayed, like to me, felt like they had to stay. That
They were
in the way
necessary.
that they were had to stay. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I
Plus, in
did,
this,
I would say for the first time ever, which was like I've always written the book in the order in which it appears. Like even if there's
oh, cool.
timelines. Like I've never like with horror movie, I didn't write the screenplay first and then disperse it. Like I wrote horror movie essentially in the order in which it was presented,
Yeah.
with the exception of maybe I moved one chapter up, but just one. But that was it. So, but with this book, I couldn't do that um, because I needed to know what was happening with Julia first before I could do the U chapters.
Yeah.
Um, so I tried it at the start, but it just wasn't working because then the Julia chapter would have to, and I would have to go back and fix, the Bernie chapter. So I ended up writing the Julia chapters first and the Bernie one second, even though in the book
Huh.
it's the Bernie first, then Julia. But yeah, that's neither here nor there. But I mention it.
Um, I for I'm not going to go further than to say that yeah, um, I always, like I said, I acknowledge that like when you do the extra textual stuff, it contributes to the plot. It like
Thank you.
it doesn't like just, it's not presenting it in a different way. It's like presenting it kind of how it feels like it should be. Um, but this time I liked some of it a lot extra for reasons I'm not going to talk about.
Right on.
So I'm sure the ebook will be lovely. I'm sure the audio book will be great.
The
But
audio, as usual, they smash it out of the. I haven't heard it yet, but I've already heard early reviews from folks who love it, and they told me what their ideas were and how they were going to present some of the things.
oh, cool.
And just they're so like any credit besides me writing the book, but the credit to like how it's presented all goes to Morrow and the audiobook team. That
That's awesome.
unlike my print editor, he was my hero. I love you, Jen. She always gets on me for the typographical stuff. But man, the audio people get so excited, like, oh, we're gonna do something cool with this, and which is a lot of fun. Just for me to hear their ideas, I'm like, yeah, do it, like, go crazy.
That's yeah. When you and you got a team you can believe in, and that gives you great stuff. That's got to be fantastic. But I will recommend, even if you're an audiobook person, get the print book. Man, I love the actual physical copy of it. I can't wait for finished copies. Um, because yeah, the way that's laid out is so cool. Man, it's really
Yeah,
fun.
thanks.
So
I mean, I still always write with like a printed book in mind, like partly
mhm.
because like I can't read. I mean, I can read digitally, but I'm a much worse reader digitally. Like I hate reading PDFs, and I get sent a ton. I mean, which is fine, but like I'm just not as strong as reader.
Yep.
However strong I am regularly, with the PDF, I just don't retain as much. I just don't enjoy it as much.
I
But some people love it, so
I agree. Well, I mean, and like I don't want to be classist about anything, so like read it how you can. Um,
absolutely.
but for me, there's like that tactile experience lens to
Yeah,
the overall experience and things like that.
I love flipping through
Um,
pages. And, oh,
yeah,
how many pages do I have to go? Am I halfway there? Like
yeah,
the digital numbers just don't do the same for me. Yeah.
and then also like obviously for me,
Yes.
it is this is the last 15 years of my life or lining. Paul, I live in a 2 bedroom apartment, and I had to move my bed into the second bedroom because the second bedroom wasn't big enough for all my books. So I had to like
Wow.
move my books into the primary. That's like how stupid like I am about contain like the physical media. But I
Yeah.
was talking to Chris Panettiere, and he's like, with all of like the fuckery that's going on with our government and everything, um, physical media is our way of like keeping a historical record. Like people can mess
Yeah.
with digital stuff. So now I'm
Absolutely.
on that
Yeah.
crusade as well. So, um, but anyway, yes, please get all the different versions of this book and enjoy them
Absolutely.
in all of the
Yeah.
different ways. There's no reason not to get them from your library if you don't want to pay for them. So libraries are massively important for the success of books and authors. So
Yes.
so we're wrapping it up, Paul. But I was me and Greg Greene end up partnering on a lot of book related projects and stuff. And so I was chatting with him today. We are doing some wrap up for the oh, that is so good. Yeah, that design.
Sorry. You mentioned Greg. He made stickers and T-shirts with these.
Yeah.
The overlaid image of Bernie, who looks suspiciously like me,
Hmm.
and Julia underneath.
um, Greg's great, and yeah, he's got shirts shirts and other merch that he's designed for the release of this book. Um, and I was chatting with him today. We are wrapping up some StokerCon stuff that we've been working on together, and so we are talking about Parnassus. So I know that you've got a tour coming up. You got
Yep.
multiple places that you're visiting. The one we were talking about is in Tennessee at Parnassus, which I am embarrassed to admit that I only recently discovered is owned by Ann Patchett, the author.
Oh, Jesus.
And
I guess I want to admit that I didn't know that. I knew she owned a store. I didn't realize it was that one.
I believe it is. And if I'm wrong,
Oh
now I'm going to
man.
apologize
Yeah.
to everybody. But yeah,
Yeah.
like, um, so like, no, she does because I was talking to Greg
Yeah.
about that earlier today. He's like, yeah, I've seen her in there a couple of times. I'm like, okay, Mr. Humble brag. But the reason I bring it up is because it's not until almost a month from now. So if anybody's listening to this and it's in that area, they have an opportunity to go out there and check it out. So it's July 15th at Parnassus. Who are you in conversation? It's a local author down there, I believe.
So yeah, Parnassus. Greg will be serving as a moderator, and Mallory Arnold will be another author in discussion with me.
That's cool. I was thinking about the logistics of making my way down there for that. So like, no promises to anybody, to Greg or to you, but I've been meaning to go down there, so I would like to maybe check that out. So, do you have a big tour? Are you going many places?
Yeah, I was gonna say we could get you some sort of like brain implant to help you on your way on your trip.
Right. Yeah, I just need to Bernie Julia this situation.
Yes. So, I mean, if really briefly, I guess release day, June 30th, I'll be at the Brookline Booksmith with Elizabeth Gonzalez. I won't read everybody, but Elizabeth Gonzalez James. I do want to mention her because her book, The Bullet Swallower, is one of my favorite books of the last few years. Just an amazing book. Thursday, the 2nd, I'm in New York City with some guy named Grady Hendrix.
Yeah.
Wednesday, July 8th, in Concord, New Hampshire at Gibson's with Nikki Gonzalez. Let's see. Thursday the 9th, I'll be at a Barnes & Noble in Smithfield. Then that next week, which includes Parnassus, is crazy. I'm in Columbus, Ohio on the 11th and 12th. And then the 13th, I'm in St. Louis. The 14th in Atlanta with Andy Davidson and Michael Wehunt, which will be fun.
Oh,
the 15th
cool.
at Parnassus, which we mentioned. The 16th, I'll be at Book People with Gabino. Glacius. I can just say Gabino. Everybody knows.
Everybody knows Gabino.
You don't need both names. And then Friday, the 17th in Los Angeles with my good friend Sarah Langan. The 24th in Beacon at Stanza Books. The really kind of fun and crazy one, which is kind of hard to explain. Wednesday, the 29th, I'll be in Vermont, in Williston, Vermont, at a Vermont Superstore, which is a furniture store, but also sponsored with a brand new bookstore just opening this month, and Eric LaRocque is going to be there. The reason my cousin Nate Gobiel, and actually I name a very important character in Deborah Dreaming of Electric Sheep after his son Brady. There's a Brady that shows up. Anyway, yeah. So my cousin Nate is just like a huge supporter, and he's like, "Oh, come to the store and we'll give away books and we'll do all this stuff." I'm like, "Okay." So yeah,
That's
doing
awesome.
the book event. Now that I'm a full-time writer, I'm going to do bookstore events at a furniture store.
Yeah. That's how you know. That's the moment. Everything changes.
Yes.
That's awesome. Well, I hope it's a very cool tour. And Paul, I always love talking to you. I love reading your books. Thank you for all of the entertainment over the years. And
No, thank you. I mean, it's
do my
funny you
best to
mentioned.
see you.
Sorry, but you mentioned to meeting over swallowing a donkey's eye. And I vividly still remember listening to you and your partner on Booked, like nervous and like, oh my God, are they going to like the book? Because I had been listening to your podcast for a while. So I was so pleased that you both liked it and that you liked it in particular. So I still remember sitting and listening to that.
Oh, well, thanks. I actually, I'm going to test my memory because the first time you got on my radar was that Ormed and Bound anthology. And I'm just going to see if I remember the name of your story was Chance the Dick.
Was that the one?
Is that it?
Oh, because there was the booked anthology. But yeah,
Right.
so you're probably correct. Yes. Because in the booked anthology, it was the City of Clay, the City of something.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Scenes from the City of Garbage and the City of Clay.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that was in my book. Chance the Dick, I think was the
So
name
it was
of
Chance the Dick, yeah.
Yeah.
An alternate short story that takes the opening chapter of my novel, Little Sleep.
I suspected that. I read The Little Sleep years later, but I was like, wait a minute. So I'm happy to have that finally confirmed.
Yeah.
Cool. But anyway, I interrupted the thank you for this like little nostalgia trip again, but it's just always so great to talk to you, and thanks for bearing with me through a power outage.
Yeah.
And thank you for such good reads over the years. I really love reading your stuff.
Well, you're very kind, Rob. Thank you for being a book champion for all these years for everybody. Yeah, it means a lot.